On a seemingly normal night, in May 2024, at Heathrow Airport in London, a Boeing 777 operated by Singapore Airlines was preparing to take off at night. The Singapore Airlines flight was from Heathrow Airport in London to Changi International Airport in Singapore. There were 18 crew members and 211 passengers on board. But moments into the flight, the calm was disrupted and chaos ensued. Have you ever wondered how fast the hearts of passengers must be racing at that moment? Imagine, one moment everything is fine, and the next moment the plane is shaking. People around you are freaking out, and food is flying through the air. Have you ever found yourself in such a situation? What will you do? Are you in the habit of wearing a seatbelt? And when we heard that 104 passengers were affected and a 73-year-old man lost his life, did you ever wonder how it all happened? Was it just bad luck or something more? Up until that point, the weather had been clear, but there was no guarantee it would stay that way. Have you ever thought about what would happen if you were on a pleasant journey and suddenly faced a dangerous situation? It's a question every traveler should consider. The flight was scheduled to last about 13.5 hours to reach Changi International Airport in Singapore. As the darkness of the night faded, sunlight began to fill the sky. By this time, the Singapore Airlines flight had been in the air for around 12 hours and had entered the airspace over Thailand. In the daylight, thick clouds were clearly visible, and the plane was flying at an altitude of 37,000 feet. As the flight progressed, the plane gradually entered the clouds. It was approximately 8 a.m. when the aircraft was over Myanmar, and the cabin crew was busy preparing breakfast for the passengers. Suddenly, the pilot announced that everyone should fasten their seatbelts. However, before all the passengers could secure themselves, the plane was rocked by violent turbulence. The cabin filled with screams as food items began to float through the air. At 37,000 feet, the plane was unexpectedly pushed upward by turbulence, climbing to 37,400 feet. Moments later, another wave of turbulence hit, causing the aircraft to plummet to 36,975 feet in just a few seconds. It felt as though the wind was tossing the plane up and down. This chaotic experience lasted for about a minute and a half, during which many passengers had not fastened their seatbelts, leading to some hitting the ceiling. In total, 104 passengers were impacted by the turbulence, with 20 suffering serious injuries. Among them was a 73-year-old man who was also gravely injured. But what happened next would leave everyone astonished, as the interior of the plane showed signs of severe damage, and the crew needed to take immediate action. We can see in the pictures that many parts of the plane's interior were damaged, and oxygen masks were hanging loose. The injured needed immediate treatment, but Singapore Airlines was still far from its destination. The pilot identified the nearest airport as Bangkok and immediately changed the plane's direction toward it. The plane descended 6,000 feet through the clouds in just 3 minutes. The captain narrated the whole incident to Bangkok ATC, after which an emergency was declared. Ambulances were deployed at the airport. The plane slowly descended amidst continuous thunderous clouds, and finally touched down on the runway. The plane stopped on the runway, and all the injured were rushed to the hospital. While everyone's lives were saved, the 73-year-old man died in the hospital. However, the cause of death was not the injuries but a heart attack. Doctors said he had a pre-existing heart condition, and the situation on the plane might have scared him, leading to a heart attack and ultimately his death. But was this incident merely a stroke of bad luck? Or was there something else that made this flight so dangerous? Was it just the storm, or were there hidden factors at play? A satellite image taken the next morning revealed some shocking details, leading us to uncover the mysteries of what really happened in the sky that night. The next morning, all the passengers were transferred to Singapore Airport. Now, let's discuss some technical details. This is a satellite image taken at the time of the incident. The purple color indicates a no-fly zone, the yellow indicates a storm, and the green indicates clouds that pose no danger. However, in this image, blue is used instead of green to avoid any confusion. When this incident occurred with Singapore Airlines, the plane must have been around this area. If we look closely, we can observe all 3 types of clouds. While the green cloud is safe, the others can be very dangerous. If the plane enters these clouds, it will undoubtedly encounter turbulence. To understand turbulence in simple terms, imagine a calm river with a boat sailing smoothly, but as soon as a rock comes into the way, the water becomes turbulent and starts to move up and down. If the boat approaches this rock, it will inevitably begin to shake. The same principle applies to a plane flying in the sky. When it enters the clouds, those clouds act like the rock in the calm river. Clouds contain water particles, which make them dense and create obstacles for the plane, resulting in turbulence. This is also observed in mountainous regions. where winds hitting the mountains become unbalanced and affect the plane as well. Regarding Singapore Airlines, the plane encountered turbulence due to the storm. But the question arises, can turbulence be so dangerous that it pushes the plane for 100 feet up or down and damages the interior of the aircraft? Can it be so dangerous that it even results in a loss of life? Friends, turbulence is common, but that doesn't mean it's not dangerous. Pilots get accustomed to it, but common doesn't mean it's safe. You might wonder why we don't hear about turbulence incidents more often if they happen frequently. Look at Singapore Airlines. The plane was in such a state that a person even died. This doesn't happen every day. Your concern is valid. These incidents often occur in the sky, but thanks to safety measures, no one usually dies or gets hurt. Like in the case of Singapore Airlines, if no one dies or is injured, such turbulence incidents are not reported to the public. And if they're not reported, they won't appear in the news. If it doesn't make the news, how will people like us learn about such dangerous turbulence incidents? Well, we probably never will. Every plane has a navigation display that warns the pilot about upcoming storms using colors. It operates quite simply. If we look at the nose of the plane, we'll see an antenna that keeps rotating and continuously sends signals ahead. When these signals hit a cloud, some of them are reflected back to the plane. The plane's computer screen then indicates that there is a cloud ahead. After that, it's the pilot's responsibility to inform all passengers in the cabin about the impending storm so that everyone can fasten their seatbelts and stay safe in case of turbulence. However, this didn't happen with Singapore Airlines. Some passengers reported that they were informed about fastening their seatbelts very late and didn't have enough time to do so quickly. This is true because if the pilot had alerted them earlier, the cabin crew would not have been serving breakfast. They would have gone to their seats and secured their seatbelts to avoid turbulence. But perhaps the cabin crew was unaware of the dangerous turbulence ahead, since many people hadn't fastened their seat belts during the turbulence in the cabin. Crew was busy preparing breakfast. The plane's interior sustained damage. If someone hits the ceiling or the luggage compartment, the interior of the plane will be compromised. I believe there was significant negligence on the pilot's part, resulting in 100 for injuries and 1 death, even if the death was due to a heart attack. In conclusion, turbulence is manageable if handled safely. However, this issue won't be discussed on any news channel. Instead, they will focus on the age of the plane, the number of injuries, and fatalities, overlooking the real issue of turbulence and safety. This critical issue is rarely discussed in the media. This incident happened in Japan, which became the worst air accident of 2024. As we've seen, Japan Airlines Flight 516 encountered a dangerous situation at Haneda Airport, colliding with another plane and bursting into flames. 5 of the 6 crew members on board -8 were killed in the collision, but all 367 passengers and 12 crew members were evacuated from the A350, and there were no injuries. This episode is really heartbreaking. If you want to know more details about this incident, be sure to check out my other video, Japan Airlines Flight 516.